Hello, lovely people. Apologies for being late. I was due to be on 15 minutes ago and I had a few tech issues. My webcam had done something with the white balance and I looked orange. I was looking rather Oompa Loompa like or rather Trump like. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Mm. So I'm just going to give it a few moments to gather the people and for it to do whatever it needs to do. And while we're waiting for that, change dog to cat. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, that's somebody commenting on my Instagram. So I'm just going to do a few minutes, and then we'll get going properly. So I'm Jo Casey. How are you doing? How are you doing this evening? It's evening here in the UK. It's been an interesting week in terms of all the things in the world, and I just thought it'd be nice to have a check-in. It would be nice to, let me just share that, be nice to share with you some of the stuff from a conversation that I had with some folks that I was in Canada with recently. So yeah, I'm big fancy pants, and I went to Canada just last week, which feels like a lifetime ago now. And during that trip, over dinner, after a couple of glasses of wine, I started talking about my experience and how I kind of got started in business, because I've been doing it for a while, and so I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and I've been doing it properly for about 3 years now. And so people are often quite curious, they want to know how did you get started and all of that. And I started telling people, I thought, actually, some of this is really, really useful. And it's also kind of funny because some bits of it have been great, some bits of it have really not been so great, and some are just downright, I just look back on it now and just kind of go, oh my goodness. So I thought, because that's the kind of thing I'm always interested in when I'm talking to other people, how did they get started? What have their biggest lessons been? You know what us coaches and holistic folks are like. We're super curious is the word that we use. Nosy. I always want to know people's background stories and their journeys, and I thought you might like to know a bit about mine. So as I say, I've been doing this incarnation of my business for about 5 years now, but I'm doing it properly since 2015. And I say this incarnation of my business because to really get to the origins of it, we have to go way back to the year 2000. And in the year 2000, I had my son, Cole, and that was a real changing point for me. I had a pretty drama-fueled life. I didn't always have the best choice in relationships or kind of life decisions. And so my 20s were, kind of a bit up and down. And when I had my son Cole when I was 28, I thought, I really have to sort myself out because he deserves so much better than me. Which was a strange realization to get to. And I think it can go one of a number of ways when you have that realization about yourself. For me, the very next thought was, so I better become the person that he needs me to be. Now, in all that I know now, kind of 18 years on, I know that, low self-esteem, that, we are not broken. We are all, beautifully, perfectly imperfect. But at the time, I really thought that there was something that wrong and damaged in me. And so I started on this journey of personal development, like a lot of people do. I'd always read self-help books, but this time I decided I was going to kind of do it properly. And a few months after he was born, a year or so afterwards, I separated from his father. and was a single parent and was working in an office where there was lots of other women there, and one of them, I guess, was another natural coach, and had the conversation with me and said, "What is it you really want to do?" And I said, "I don't know. I've thought about being a counsellor, thought about being a therapist. I don't really know." And she said, "Have you heard of this thing called a life coach?" And I hadn't. And so I started researching into it, and I thought, this sounds great. I can't believe people pay people to do this. And so I went on a life coaching course. I paid a lot of money for it at the time, which I didn't have, took out a loan for it. And I went and I did a life coaching course, which started with a weekend. And on that weekend, I fell in love with this methodology, with this process, this relationship that was so respectful, that was so adult, that wasn't about somebody's broken and I need to fix them. That at its very core, this belief that we are all capable of coming up with our own solutions, and all the coach does is be the catalyst to help them to do that. And I loved it. Not only did I love it in terms of being in the coach seat, I loved it being coached. And I thought, oh my God, the fact that people will pay you to do this is amazing. This is what I'm going to do. And I was kind of high on all the personal development stuff I was reading. I had got a hooky copy off eBay of Anthony Robbins tapes. And those of you who know me now know I have very different feelings about Anthony Robbins these days. But in those days, I was a bit of an Anthony Robbins fan. And so I'm a single parent. I've just started this life coaching course. I have zero business experience. I have always worked in big organizations, local government. I'd worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I had worked for I'd freelanced in terms of learning design and being a freelance trainer. But other than that, I had no business experience. I didn't understand marketing. I didn't understand how to track your expenses, how to work out, your break-even point, nothing. Yet I decided it would be a great idea to leap because the universe would catch me. So I set up as a life coach with only a few months of training. And I'm a single parent by this point. Have I mentioned that? It's insane when I look back and I go, oh my God. But I knew that I was a grafter. I knew that I would work hard. I knew that I could do whatever it takes, and I was determined. And so I did everything that my coach school told me to do. I sent out press releases. I was in my local paper, more or less monthly for a few months. Me there could look at and talk about life coaching. I never got one client from it. I joined a BNI group, which was filled with plumbers and gardeners and people who did like air conditioning systems and things like that. And I'm not a morning person, but I would get up and I would go, and each week I would stand there and I would talk some garbage about life coaching because I couldn't properly explain it in a way that other people seem to get. I would talk about, we use kind of really insightful questions to help you come up with your own solutions. And all the top sports people have coaches, and it was painful. And BNI is one of those things where you're expected to do reciprocal referrals. And I was a single parent and I ran my own business and I was new to the area. So I knew so few people there. I found that really, really difficult. I managed to get a few freelancing kind of contracts alongside my business. I had no savings. Did I mention I had no savings? And I did loads and loads of kind of free taster sessions, and eventually I got a paying client. He was paying me a really low fee, but I didn't care. I was so nervous before my first coaching calls that I would feel sick. And I had this little headset, because this is like back in the year 2000, 2001 by this point. I had this little headset. You had, this little telephony headsets. I had one of those, and I was there and I was all ready for the call. And I wait for the call to come through. The call comes through, And this guy, and he's quite a young man, and I can't remember what he did. It was something very thrusting and go-getting. He was a very thrusting and go-getty type person. And I realized that he was not only talking really fast, but there was a lot of background noise, and I realized he was in a car as he was talking to me. This is my first paying client, remember? And he's in a car, and I'm thinking, oh, this isn't good. I should have said he needs to be somewhere quiet and everything. And he's talking really fast. And to be honest, I'm struggling to get a word in edgewise to even ask some of my fantastic, insightful questions. And he has this dilemma as to whether to move to Australia or not. He has this opportunity to emigrate to Australia, literally the other side of the world. Big decision he wants some help with. But he's talking 10 to the dozen. And he's all over the place, and I'm really struggling to follow this call. So after maybe 10-15 minutes of this, I eventually kind of get the word in. I said, look, this isn't ideal that you're driving. Can we reschedule this? I should have said up front, because of course, women will always apologize first. I should have said up front that it's best to have these calls when you're not going to be disturbed and things. So could you give me a call back when you get back to the office? And I can't remember what we did. I think we've rescheduled for another day. And when I spoke to him the next time, he said, yeah, it was a bit wild that day. I had to get somewhere. I was late for a meeting. I'd done a couple of cheeky lines, to kind of get a bit of pep in my step. And because I had watched things like, I don't know, I think of like TV shows, I thought, a couple of cheeky lines, does that mean cocaine? And so my very first client, ladies and gentlemen, was high on cocaine, driving his car probably too fast down the motorway when we had our first call. That I still kind of think about, oh my God, I've never heard of that happening before or since. Maybe if you work with clients in the city or in Hollywood or something, but it's certainly never happened to my knowledge since then. But there's a couple of things from that. There was no way I should have leapt. And that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I wish I could give my younger self, and I give to everyone I speak to, is please do not quit your job. I have a blog post. I think I have a couple of blog posts. One of them is literally says, coaches, please do not quit your job too soon. Because the stress and anxiety of not knowing where the money was going to come from was just crushing. And I know there are some coaches that talk about having, burning the bridges so that you have no option but to sink also, but you have to make it work. But I'm somebody who, at the time, I was a single parent. All the responsibilities were down to me. I had no business experience. It was just a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. And so actually piling that pressure and stress onto me meant that I wasn't making great decisions. I was making very panicky decisions. I wasn't able to go about building a business in a thoughtful and deliberate way. I was just going from one crisis to another. Fast forward a few months, one of the freelance contracts that I had, I say contract, it was somebody that I'd worked for as past an employee. He wanted to teach me a lesson. They were his words. He wanted to teach me a lesson about contracts and business because he was a dick, basically, and he refused to pay my the latest invoice. And by that point, I had no other money to pay the bills. And when he did that, I just kind of broke down, awful. And I had to go to my dad and ask if he could lend me the money to pay the mortgage that month. And we had a chat, and he said that, well, you're going to need more than just paying the mortgage this month, whereas next month's going to come in. And I realized that it just wasn't working. I couldn't keep going. So he lent me money to get me through until I found a job. I found a job, fortunately, pretty quickly, and then spent the next few years paying him back. I'm feeling like a great big failure because I had stacked the deck against myself so high. And at the time, the lesson that I took from it was that I was not cut out for running a business. It was a disaster. I put in this big shame-wrapped box called failure. And I didn't open that box again for several years. The lesson that I now take from it, and the one that I want to share with the people that I come across, is building something like a coaching business, especially if you don't have existing business skills. So many of us go into this type of profession, whether it be coaching, whether it be healing, whether it be a yoga teacher or a choir teacher or Reiki healer, or even a consultant. We go into this because we love the craft, we love the art form, we love the work. And that's, especially if you're still learning that's like one really big thing that you're having to kind of get to grips with. And then you add on running a business. And if you've never done that before, it's too much to be doing at once. It's too much to be doing at once. And so what I really wish I had done was to have carried on with coaching and with my coaching business, but on the side, and not done the whole kind of leap and the universe will catch you. Fortunately, this love affair that I had with coaching was so big. It was intense, it was infatuation. And so the job that I had was in learning and development, because that had been my background. And the people that I was working for within learning and development, I said to them, I have this thing called coaching. I've trained in it. And they were going, oh, I've heard about that. Yeah, people are doing quite a lot of that in the workplace. I was going, well, I can do it. And so I persuaded them to let me coach people in-house, which was fantastic, because it allowed me to continue this love affair that I had with this kind of craft, this art form, whilst having the stability of having a salary, meaning that I could pay the bills, I could pay the mortgage, I could pay back down my debts, and I could get really adept at what I was doing as a coach. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to do that, for sure. And I probably could have done that and maybe spent a year focused on getting really good at the coaching and then understanding how to do business. And, I didn't need to take as long as I did. But I remember I had running your own business in this big box marked failure. So I carried on doing that as an in-house coach for the next kind of 5 or 6 years. And over the years, not only did I develop my own coaching skills, but I then developed a kind of coach training program. I went off and did my master's degree in coaching, because up to that point I had a life coaching. I had a life coaching and a performance coaching certificate that I'd done, which, and I'd read loads, but I then went off and did my master's degree. I also, at the same time, because remember, I'm in love with this thing, I also went and did my NLP practitioner certificate, and then I later went on and did my master practitioner. I've got a smudgy lipstick, I apologise. And all of that I was able to do with this kind of sustainability that I had with my job. And I developed this coaching program, and I'm still thinking I'm not cut out to run my own business. And then I learned that they're making loads and loads of people redundant. So this is now, we're probably up to 2008 now. 2009, I was off maternity leave 2009. I go back in 2010, and with a new government, austerity is installed in the UK. And over the next couple of years, the organisation I worked for, which was a local government organisation, lost 2/3 of the workforce. And so I knew at some point I was going to be one of the people that I knew that this job was not going to be for a very long term. And so my shift in my work focus shifted to helping people around resiliency. Still doing lots of coaching, still doing the coach training. By this point, I'm running a level 5 coaching program, a level 7 coaching program, which is like degree level and postgrad level. So I'm really confident in my coaching skills. And then finally, it's time for me to leave. And by this point, I had started tentatively taking on private clients. It was mainly through word of mouth, and just because I loved what I did, and I was really comfortable, not in talking about myself, but I was really comfortable in talking about the power of coaching. And I was asked to run some coach training programs for other organizations, and got some freelance training work. And then when I finally went full time in my coaching business, by this point I had switched to working with coaches full time. So it was a really, really gentle kind of evolution. However, the first couple of years when I was doing it full time were really tough, unnecessarily tough. And that's the other thing that I think in hindsight I would love to do different, and I really want to share with yourselves, because I was so petrified of going all in on my business because I had done that before and it had failed. And so therefore, somewhere in my head, I had equated taking my business seriously with it being a great big fat failure. And so I tried to bootstrap everything. I didn't want to invest in anything because I had kind of one foot in, one foot out. And I think there is a big difference between leaping, being totally unprepared, hoping the universe will catch you and just kind of, jumping off a cliff without looking, and actually having a really good safety net in terms of the skills and the kind of the resources and the confidence and the connections. There were very different situations, but somewhere in my head I was treating them as if they were the same. And I see this happen more often than you would imagine in other people, because there's something about, I think it's about taking your business seriously. It's not just going all in. It's saying, I am going to commit to doing this thing, and I take it seriously enough to do what needs to be done to make sure that it's got the best chance of succeeding. And so what I was doing before then was, I was kind of going, well, I'll see what goes. And I've started getting clients, and I don't really know. And I built my own website, and I taught myself how to build websites, and I took course after course after course. But there was something, I still had one foot in, one foot out. And so it took, those first 2 years were totally unnecessarily tough. A lot of anxiety, a lot of kind of going from one thing to the other, a lot of not laying kind of plans, not really getting the kind of the proper support, always thinking I might have to get another job in a minute. And the biggest difference, so there's a couple of things that I think are really important that I really want you to hear. The first kind of real mindset shift, which led to a real behavior shift, was when I thought, I love this. I think I'm going to listen to the people who are telling me that I'm good enough at this, and I'm going to give this a proper go. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to, pay somebody $20,000 to, build me a website or anything like that. But I'm going to take this seriously enough to get some support, because at that point I was trying to do it all by myself. I was even shy about talking to people about the fact that this is what I did for my business. Do any of you have that? I know some of you do. When somebody says, oh, what do you do? And you're too scared to say, oh, I'm a coach, or I have an online business, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a healer, or, you kind of say, oh, I do just a few things, do a bit of freelance work, and you kind of fudge it. There was a real shift once I started saying to people, I'm a coach. I have a coaching business. I also do some training, and I help people do blah, blah, blah. There was a real shift once I started owning that. And along with that was also taking myself and my business serious enough to get some support. I hired my first coach. Now I know that, we're coaches and we're all meant to be, really good at that. We're meant to be totally sold on it, aren't we? But there was something about actually hiring somebody to say, there was like, okay, I'm willing to invest some of myself. I hired somebody first of all for a one-off strategy session. It was like it was actually Kate Courageous, who runs the Courageous Living School of Coaching. I can't remember what it's called now. It's not Tribe CLC anymore. But I hired her, and you could do like a 90-minute strategy session with her, and she did like a website review and give you advice on things like, building your list. And she reviewed some blog posts that I'd written and said, these are really good. You should be submitting these as guest posts. You could start pitching yourself for podcasts. It was that first outside person that I'd ever allow, who kind of knew what I was talking about, to look at my business. And there was something so useful in that, because having somebody who was already a quote unquote expert, who had been around the block, who actually say, and me believe her, you are good enough to do this, was so powerful. I also, round about the same time, found my mastermind people. Now, they have evolved over the years, that kind of makeup has shifted, but for more or less the past 4 years, I have masterminded once a week with certainly at least one of the same people. And we take that really seriously. We're committed to it, because there's something about, you show up, we show up every Monday at a certain time, come hell or high water, unless kid's sick or you're traveling. Even then last week when I was in Canada, we still all showed up. I still showed up at the same time. I'm trying to think. It was the same time. It was just obviously a different time because it was in Canada. Now, that's not a paid mastermind. That's something that we set up ourselves. It came out of a paid mastermind program, a short one. But again, that's something about, I think, that says to you psychologically, I'm taking this seriously enough. But also, I started allowing people into my business and helping me. I stopped trying to do it all on my own, because I think there's a couple of things go on. For a lot of us, we think, oh, if I ask for help, then that shows that I'm weak, or I'm not up to this, or I'm there's something lacking in me. Especially for women and women identifying folks, we are conditioned to put the needs of others first, and to be capable, and to cope with everything, and to look good while we do it. With the makeup on, lipstick on, I'm fine. How are you? I'm gonna, I'll be doing the school run on 3 hours sleep. That's part of our conditioning. Men tend to be conditioned to be strong and never show any emotions, never show any weakness. So many of us are carrying around this thing, I cannot ask for help. Asking for help is a sign of weakness. And being in that mastermind, hi Liz, Applegate, mastermind buddy, being in that mastermind, allowing other people to help me, allowing me to help them, allowing them to see the inside of my business, to see the things I was wrestling with, to help me with ideas, to lean on their areas of expertise. What is so fantastic is, you then don't have to be good at everything. Because if you try and bootstrap everything, then you try and do it all by yourself. And there are just some things that I am really good at, but there are some things I'm really not good at. And so I have Liz and I have Laura who help me with that, and they let me help them with their stuff. And it helps get away from that feeling like you're on your own and getting stuck in your head and going round and round and round with ideas and thinking, is this idea crazy good, or is it just plain crazy? And so that having those people, allowing other people into my business, allowing other people to help me, I cannot stress how beneficial that is. It's one of the reasons that I make sure that having a community element is baked into pretty much everything that I do, whether that be the Meaningful Business Academy, whether that be the Supernova program, which is going to be launching in a few weeks' time. You can go over and have a look at the page the information page, if that's something that you have had your eye on for a while, joecasey.com/supernova. We're starting at the end of October with that. Having that community, having fellow travelers, having people who will help you get out of your head, who will help you to come up with different ideas, see things from different perspectives, help shift your mood, sometimes help you come down from the ledge when you're having I am burning this whole thing to the ground day, because we all have those. Having those people alongside you is just invaluable. And if I was talking to my younger self now, that is one of the things that I hope she would listen to. Although knowing me and my younger self, she still probably wouldn't, and she would still probably try and do it all by herself. But I hope you listen to me and you're a bit less stubborn than I was. Other things that worked. One of the best pieces of advice, and it was something that actually Kate Swoboda said to me on that very first call that I had with her. Now, at the time, Kate, I think, had just been featured in the top 100 personal development bloggers, or the top 20 or something like that. She'd had this kind of big kind of leap in her profile. She had a full practice. She had, successful business. She was doing well. And she said to me, Jo, the only difference is between me and the people who, did coach training at the same time with me and have gone by the wayside. She said, I swear, it's that I kept going. The only difference sometimes between success and failure is keeping going. Now, it's not just blindly keeping going in the kind of, I'm going to keep doing this thing over and over again, even though it's not working. It's keeping going. And that's where resilience comes in. I see Lynn there on the call at the moment. Lynn, resilience expert. Having that resilience to keep going, to tweak, to be able to reflect what went well, what didn't go so well, what can I do differently next time. That has been that is also invaluable, and I see that in my peers who have the businesses that are still going, and in my my elders who have those businesses that I look to and kind of go, oh, I want a business like theirs. It's that ability to not have disasters and mistakes, because you definitely will still get them, definitely. But it's having the ability to feel the feelings and then get up again and go, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I make sure that doesn't happen the next time? How can I learn from it? How can I, what can I put into place that's going to lessen the chance that will happen again? They're able to have that flexibility and that resiliency. I cannot tell you, I collect these stories now. The number of super 6- and 7-figure business owners I have spoken to about their disasters, which I know is like the opposite of what I'm meant to do in personal development, but I find it so gratifying to know that they've had them too. The very first course that I launched, the very first group course, everyone's meant to launch a group course. I had no clue how to run a group course, but I created this course. I spent months creating it, which is not what you're meant to do, by the way, but I spent months creating it. 2 people signed up. I spoke to Andrea Owen about this, which we spoke about it on a podcast, so it's public, and she said, well, that was better than me, because my first group course, this is Andrea Owen, who has like 2 best-selling books, and I think at the time we were having this conversation, she had 100,000 likes on her Facebook page. Said, I didn't get anyone signed up for my group course, and I can tell you a dozen stories like that. Now, this isn't, if you've got a group course coming out, I'm thinking Lynn, I'm just seeing Lynn going, I know. That doesn't mean that's always what happens. It's far from it. It really isn't. But sometimes it does. Sometimes you put the offer out and nobody bites. Sometimes you go for the big contract with the corporate client and you're so close and you're convinced that it's going to go well, and then they turn around and say, oh, sorry, we're going to do it in-house now. You will have those setbacks and you'll have those knocks. And one of the biggest differences is the fact that, yes, by all means, sit down and cry. I cry a lot, especially over my business. But then reach out to your people, reach out to your team, send the Voxer to your mastermind buddies. Liz has received many of these from me. And say, this feels like shit. I don't know what to do. and feel the feelings, and then work out a plan of how you can get up and keep going and recover from it. That's the things. Oh my goodness. So Lynn, you've already got a few students already, so I'm pleased. Well, that is fantastic. Lynn, you were doing better than I did on mine. So that is brilliant. That warms my heart, because I was feeling a bit anxious going, oh no, I'm putting the hex on the knuckles. So that being able to keep going, having that resiliency. And again, your support network comes into this. You seen a theme here? So I've gone from being the lone parent, the lone warrior running her business and it being a disaster, to now being somebody who regularly gets help, asks for help. I do have a coach. I always tend to have a coach, because the emotional journey of running your own business, the amount of growth that you need to do to really believe in yourself, to be able to stand firm in what you're doing. As a Mance, I believe in coaching. I am a coach, so why would I not do? But having that group of fellow travelers as well, so vital, so important. Also, having some actual strategy in there. Before I was doing it just kind of scattergun. I will throw a lot of stuff at the wall and I will see what sticks, because I am good at being busy. Busy is my happy place. I'm somebody who, I was going to say joking aside, but no, I will joke about it as much as the next person, because I'm glad that I can joke about it. So I'm somebody, I have chronic anxiety and depression. I have done since my late teens. It's recurrent. It generally will come back and bite me. Earlier this year, it came back and bit me quite hard. So there are times when I use busyness to outrun the anxiety. I'm very aware of that as a pattern for me. And so I have to be really careful that what the actions that I'm taking in my business are actually strategically the right things. And I'm not trying to do all of the things, because it's really easy to get overwhelmed. It's really easy to dilute your impact because you're trying to be on every social media platform, and you're trying to have the podcast and blog every week and guest post. I quite often will use the story of Periscope, because I can remember Periscope coming out and suddenly all of the people were doing how to use Periscope to help your business. And I remember saying to someone, I can't remember, I think it might have been Laura, I can't remember, going, oh God, do I have to learn Periscope as well? And I didn't, because I didn't have the bandwidth. And then Periscope went by the wayside. I use last night, yes, you could have learned Periscope as well. But there'll be another Periscope. There'll be the next thing. And that's not to say keep going with the things that aren't working just because you don't want to learn something new. Part of having a good strategy is looking at, okay, so what is still working? What isn't working? But part of it is about going deep and consistent on things like your marketing plan. You're being able to have really good sales conversations that aren't exploitative, that aren't about pushing people into that kind of panic state. You have to make a decision now, this is coming off the table type thing, but that are really ethical. But I don't know about you, I had no clue how to do those before I started. So, I really need some help with some things. Having a really strong, clear message. Remember me talking about my BNI experience, when I would stand up and kind of go, well, I'm a life coach and I will help you to achieve your goals faster than you could do on your own. And people were like, why would I pay you for that? It can be really difficult to explain what it is that we do, because we change lives, and that's kind of hard to explain, to put into an easy way for people to get it. And so having a strong message that encompasses all of these brilliant things that you do, and having this really kind of, I call it like an umbrella, having this umbrella that is going to be really clear to people what it is that you're about, and then having clear themes kind of coming off. I said, why use umbrella? It's like an Australian cork hat or something. But it's like having all of the themes coming off so that you can say to people, I help people who are struggling with this to do that. and do it in real language that people can understand. That there's a skill to that, and that is really difficult to do for yourself. Really difficult. I struggle to do it for myself, and I have to say, I know we're not meant to do this as women, but I'm going to blow my own trumpet here for a minute and say I'm bloody brilliant at doing that for other people. It's one of my superpowers. I love doing that type of stuff, but I still need help with it for me because we're too close to it ourselves. So having that kind of strategic piece, having that clear message, having that strategic marketing plan that is going to be sustainable, that isn't going to require you to be marketing, 6 hours a day on Instagram type thing, that is still going to be able to help you to be who you want to be in the public space. All of that's really important. And I wish there was a real secret to this next bit, but there wasn't. It was just pure exhaustion. So one of I did a survey a few months ago, and I asked people in my world what were the kind of words and phrases that they thought of when they thought of me. I was doing some kind of branding stuff with my coach, and the word that came up again and again and again and again was authentic. And it kind of makes me smile because I have never been deliberately authentic. In fact, for those first couple of years when it was all going really badly, I was so trying to not be this. I was so trying to not be this. I was trying to be somebody polished and shiny, somebody who doesn't correct their lipstick midway through a Facebook Live, somebody who can keep one thought and can follow it to the end of that, bing, 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 and then get in there. I was trying to be somebody thinner and more organized and with slightly less of a northern accent. And I was just trying to be the person who I thought I really needed to be in order to have a successful business. And the person I thought I had to be was so many of those other coaches I was following. I was following people like Fabienne Fredrickson, and I was following Lisa Sasevich, and I was following other, lots of them I'm no longer, I don't even know if they're still going, but they were very often thin and tanned and usually on a beach, and they had great teeth, and they had really nice kind of thin toned arms, and they all wore those kind of sleeveless sheath dresses, and they all kind of took side onto the camera like that, and they had these beautiful white offices. And my life is messy, my brain is messy. I'm a creative type, I have rainbow arranged books behind me, and I use bright colours, and apparently I dress like Kimmy Schmidt, and I was trying so hard not to be all of that because I thought that people wouldn't hire me if they saw this and they heard this. And I know that for a lot of us it's really hard to show up as ourselves, because if we show up as ourselves, if I showed up like this and people said, I think you're full of crap, they're basically saying, I think you're full of crap. I see you and I think you're full of crap. And that felt so exposed, because that was my fear, that somebody would say that. And so I was trying to be this version of me that I thought the internet needed me to be. It's kind of what we do, especially as women. And again, about kind of, I don't know, maybe it was about 18 months, 2 years into my business. And none of it was going the way that I thought it should be going. And I looked at my blog stats, and I think I was getting something like 13 visitors. Most of them were probably bots. I was getting no comments on my blog posts. I'd been guest posting, thinking that would bring me in hundreds of subscribers to my email list. And I was getting maybe 20. And I just thought, I'm too tired. I'm too tired to keep all of this up. None of it's working anyway. So it really doesn't matter what I write on this blog post, because no one's reading it. And that was kind of liberating. And, over the past few years, life is complicated. I was late for this Facebook Live because my webcam wasn't working properly. And I was rushing. There's the bit of me that kind of went, well, you should have got there half an hour early, and then if the tech wasn't working, you could have checked it. But the reason I wasn't here early was because I had to pick Maya, my daughter, up from Brownies, and then she's doing her food and cookery badge, and she needed to make a cup of tea, and for me to take pictures of a cup of tea while me kind of going, oh, please don't burn yourself, please be careful with the kettle, and all of that stuff. And then I rushed up here, and then the webcam wasn't working, because that's life. And I show up like that because turns out that resonates with people, because other people have those types of lives as well. And that doesn't take anything away from the fact that I'm really bloody good at what I do. And there's a real, it's this double-edged sword. There's a real liberation in allowing yourself to be seen publicly. But I also know the fear that you'll get criticized. I know how vulnerable it feels. I still get it. Before I logged on now, just then, I literally, one of the tabs on my computer is how to get rid of abusive or trolly comments on your Facebook Lives, because a friend of mine was telling me just the other day she did one, a public one, and she got all these trolling comments. I was just like, oh my God, that'll happen. We have all of that. We have this feeling of it's not safe to be public. It's not safe to show up as ourselves. In some ways, it feels safer to wear that mask of whatever it is that we think people want us to be. But A, it's exhausting, so it's not sustainable. And B, turns out people can spot that. People can spot if you're not being real. We have like this sixth sense to it. And so you can't hide behind that mask. If you want to be building authentic relationships with people, if you want people to be attracted to your business and your brand and your services, as a solo business owner, the only things that people have to go on about what it might be like to work with you is, do they know you? Do they like you? Do they trust you? Well, if you're not showing up as you, then they can't know you. And therefore, they can't decide if they like you or not, and they will never trust you. And so I have learned that it's okay to show up a few minutes late and be honest about why you're late. It's okay to not be polished. It's okay to share your opinions. I was reading a post from another male marketing person just today who was saying, it's up to you whether you want to share your opinions about politics and things like that, but you're discounting half the population because the world's so polarized now. Well, so there's plenty to go around, and I would sooner show up, even when I'm in a slightly bolshy mood, I would sooner show up in a way that is real, because I know that is what sets me apart from other people. If you show up as you are uncopyable. There may be 7 million, billion, trillion coaches out there, or yoga teachers, or Reiki healers. There may be, but there's only going to be one you. And so the more you can show up as in your brilliance, the more that's going to resonate with people. People are sick of slick. They are sick of slick marketing and tricks and manipulation. They don't want it. We don't want it. We're tired of it. We know it all. We know you're going to shove us into your 7-part email funnel, and that's, oops, I sent out the wrong link. Here is the right link, so they get to email you again. Or we had some tech issues, and so the early bird has been extended. For we know all that. People want real, and that's brilliant, because it means you don't have to pretend to be somebody else. And I discovered this by accident. I discovered this because I was just too damn exhausted to keep up with the facade anymore. And once I did, people started paying attention. So that is kind of my business story, and I realized that I hadn't shared that for a while. The fact that this has been a very long journey, and it didn't need to be as long as it did. But fortunately, there were some lessons that I learned along the way. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any. I don't know. I'm kind of going down. This is like, oh, so over that shit. Let me go through some of the comments then. Lynn, so I know that I'm ready for some outside help. Well, that is very good, because once you hit that point, you kind of go, yeah, I know that I'm ready to get some outside help with this, to get some support. I think that that's a big kind of stepping stone in the evolution of a business. I really do. I think that I really wish I'd have realized that earlier on, because there's something about, I think, that committing to your business and taking it seriously, that you're willing to do that, and you're acknowledging that. So that's fab. I love that. Oh, look, big love heart from Janine. When can I hire you, says Lynn? Well, Lynn, have a look at my website. But seriously, if you are interested in Supernova, is my kind of signature program. It is transformational in terms of the difference it'll make to your business and the difference it'll make to you personally. And what is so cool is I can say that without a hint of kind of, oh, is that true? Is that really true? Because I believe in this program so wholeheartedly. We've run it twice before. We've made some changes to it this year. It's just a phenomenal program. Go and have a look at that. It's called, just go to joecasey.com. In fact, I'll put it in the go to joecasey.com/supernova. No, not Supernova Cane, Supernova. No, not at the end, at the beginning. Oh my God, see, I can't do polished even if I tried. If you go to joecasey.com/supernova, have a look at that. That is my recommendation for everyone who's kind of thinking about, saying Supernova is amazing. Janine is saying Joe is also, yeah, full disclosure, Janine was one of my clients, and she is just doing fantastically. She's doing brilliantly. There are loads of people in the Coaches and Healers Collective who are past clients. So if you are, and this goes for anybody, and I would say this for any coach you're thinking of hiring, see if you can have a call with them. I will always hop on a call with people before they work with me. Even in group programs. In fact, I would say especially in group programs, because the dynamic's so important. But also see if they can give you referrals of other people who've worked with them. I'm there already. Well, that's fantastic. See if there are other people that you can talk to and have a good chat with. I'm always happy to connect people who are maybe considering working with me, but would like to talk through with a neutral party, i.e. someone who's already had that experience. Because obviously I'm going to say, yeah, work with me, I'm great. But you want somebody else's perspective, somebody who's maybe been where you are. And there's also so important to get the good fit. If by the way, a coach is reticent about doing that would send a little bit of a red flag for me. Or if they don't have a lot of testimonials, or if they're, I don't know, the testimonials, or if you look at the people who have testimonials on their site, and you go to that person's site and there's a testimony from the other person there, that can be a tactic as well that some people use. So I would just do your due diligence, because it's about getting the good fit as well as somebody who knows their stuff. Thank you. Oh, Page Not Fat, Liz, you are amazing. See, this is why I need other people. Why did I spell it wrong? So I did. I spelt it wrong. Okay, I missed out the O. Thank you so much, Liz. You were my savior. Okay, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and I will come back and answer them text-wise. Thank you all so much. I'm going to be doing, I've got some other Facebook Lives planned over the next few weeks, and I've got a really nice juicy webinar coming up as well, where I'm going to talk about how to be an unstoppable entrepreneur. Not in that kind of unstoppable kind of, wait, unstoppable, nothing will stop me, that kind of energy, not in that, but in a much more kind of human, if you think about the tortoise and the hare, what we need is to get some sustainability in there. We don't want kind of highs and lows and big dips, because that is exhausting. Your link didn't work either? No way. Let me find the right link. This is hopeless. You call yourself a marketer, Joe Casey. Oh my goodness. Right, supernova. There we go. Oh, can't even copy properly. So we've got that coming up week after next, and I've got a couple more Facebook Lives for next week and one for the week after, and so we've got some really good stuff coming up. Like I say, if you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. Who is me on mobile? Well, between us, Liz, we'll get there. Thank you all so much. I know it was late, and I know I was late, and oh my goodness, we're getting on 55 minutes. Thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate the fact that you show up at this time of day and you interact and you support one another. And if you're not already part of the Coaches and Healers collective, because this is going out on my page and it's also going out in there, please just take me up and join there. It is just the friendliest, most supportive group I've ever come across on the Facebook, and you'll be made most welcome there. Thank you all so much. I will speak to you very, very, very soon.